Let me ask you something. How many times have you walked away from a conversation, a meeting, or an argument thinking, I should have said that? Or why did I let them talk to me like that? Or maybe, why did I lose my temper again? You see, we live in a world where it feels like the loudest person wins. But let me tell you the truth. Real power doesn't shout. It speaks with clarity, conviction, and calm. Today, I want to introduce you to a new way of leading your life. Not through aggression, not through silence, but through assertive, powerful communication. This is about learning to speak your truth, stand your ground, and still keep your heart open. Because when you communicate with calm clarity, you don't just win arguments, you win respect, influence, and peace of mind. Clarity is power. Most people think communication starts with speaking, but it doesn't. It starts with thinking. Most people walk into conversations armed with emotion, not intention. They want to be heard, but they haven't figured out what they actually want to say. You can't be assertive if you're unclear. It's like trying to hit a target you can't see. The first step in becoming calmly assertive is getting clear on your message. What do you stand for? What outcome do you want? What boundaries are you setting or values are you honoring? When you get clear, your nervous system relaxes. You're not reacting anymore. You're leading. You're not trying to overpower someone. You're standing in your truth. And here's the best part. Clarity removes the need for volume. When you know exactly what you want to say, you don't need to yell, you don't need to argue, and you certainly don't need to apologize for it. You speak with confidence because you know your purpose. Let me be real with you. People respect those who respect themselves, and the fastest way to earn respect is to communicate with clarity, not with chaos, not with conflict, but with calm. The person who stays centered in a storm doesn't just survive, they lead. And clarity is your anchor in that storm. So before your next difficult conversation, pause, breathe, ask yourself, what do I want to say? Why does it matter? And how can I say it in a way that honors me and respects them? That's where true assertiveness begins. Let me tell you something powerful. The person who can control their emotions is the one who controls the conversation. Emotions aren't the enemy, they're energy. But when you let that energy run wild without direction, it burns bridges instead of building them. You've got to own your emotions or they'll own you. And in the heat of communication, especially when tension rises, most people don't think. They react. That reaction is usually driven by fear, ego, or unresolved pain. And that's when assertiveness turns into aggression, or worse, silence and avoidance. Emotional regulation doesn't mean suppressing how you feel. It means mastering your state. It means you learn how to pause instead of pounce. You breathe when others explode. You center yourself when others are spinning. Why? Because you've trained yourself to respond, not react. That's strength. That's leadership. You see, aggression might feel powerful in the moment, but it's weakness in disguise. It's the bodyguard of insecurity. True power, lasting, grounded power, lives in calm. And listen, this isn't about being passive. This isn't about being soft. This is about being strategic. You can be calm and still be passionate. You can be clear and still be fierce. But if your emotions hijack your message, nobody hears your truth. They only see your drama. So what do? You train. Just like you train your body, you train your emotional state. You don't wait for high pressure moments to figure it out. You prepare. You learn your triggers. You recognize the signs in your body, the tight chest, the racing heart, the clenched jaw. And instead of ignoring them, you face them with awareness. You use tools, breathwork, visualization, questions that shift your focus. What's the outcome I want? Or how do I stay true to myself in this moment? These aren't just mindset tricks. They're the foundation of communication mastery. Because once you regulate your emotions, your message becomes unstoppable. You're no longer a slave to moods. You become the master of the moment. People will listen to you not because you're loud, but because your presence speaks louder than noise. They'll respect your calm as strength, and most importantly, you'll respect yourself. Because you didn't let emotion drive the wheel, you chose who you wanted to be, moment by moment. When you want to connect with someone, truly connect, not attack, not control, but influence, you've got to drop the blame game. Most people communicate like they're in a courtroom, trying to prove a point or win a case. But communication isn't about winning, it's about understanding, it's about impact. And one of the fastest ways to shift from conflict to connection is by changing just one simple pattern: the way you frame your words. Blaming language triggers defense. It puts the other person on guard, ready to fight or flee. You say, "You never listen to me," and instantly their wall goes up. Why? Because it sounds like an attack. It feels like judgment. But now, flip it. Say, "I feel unheard when we talk." That's not an accusation. That's ownership. That's truth, spoken from your experience, not as a weapon, but as a bridge. Using "I" statements doesn't make you weak. It makes you powerful, because you're owning your experience instead of outsourcing your emotions. You're saying, "This is how I feel. This is what I need. This is what matters to me." You're not saying they're wrong. You're saying you matter, and that's assertiveness at its finest. That's leadership. This shift, though simple, is profound. Instead of "you make me angry," try "I feel angry when this happens." Instead of "you don't care," say "I feel disconnected when I don't feel acknowledged." You see the difference. One triggers the ego, the other invites empathy, and here's the beauty. You're not giving up your power. You're channeling it in a way that creates progress, not conflict. Because the moment you stop blaming, you start healing. The conversation becomes less about proving and more about improving. This kind of language invites the other person to actually listen to you. It creates safety. It opens the door to dialogue instead of debate. And when people feel safe, they respond with honesty, not hostility. Your words become tools, not triggers. This takes practice. It takes courage. But when you master it, you'll no longer be reacting to people. You'll be reaching them. And that's when communication becomes transformation. Because you're no longer speaking from ego. You're speaking from intention, clarity, and calm strength. Let me ask you something. How often do you really listen? Not just wait for your turn to speak, but truly listen with your full attention, your full presence, your full heart. Most people think communication is about talking, but the truth is, great communicators are great listeners. Because when you listen with presence, you gain insight, you disarm tension, and you earn trust. You don't just hear the words, you understand the why behind them. When someone feels heard, they calm down. It's human nature. We all want to be seen, acknowledged, valued. When you give someone your undivided attention, you're telling them you matter. And that energy changes the room. It breaks down defenses. It makes people more receptive to your message when it's your time to speak. That's influence. That's how real leaders communicate. Not by dominating conversations, but by elevating them. But here's the key. Presence is not passive. It's powerful. When you listen, you're not just nodding along while rehearsing your comeback. You're tuning in, reading tone, body language, emotion. You're asking yourself, what's really going on here? What is this person trying to express underneath the words? That's emotional intelligence. That's mastery. When you listen with that level of presence, your response becomes 10 times more effective. You don't react, you respond. You speak with precision because now you know exactly where the other person is coming from. Your words hit deeper because they're aligned with awareness, and people feel that. They respect that. Think about it. How many conflicts in your life came from not feeling heard or from you not hearing someone else? Misunderstandings create emotional landmines, but presence clears that path. It allows both people to stand in their truth without stepping on each other's integrity. And when you've truly listened, your assertiveness becomes laser, focused, not scattered. You don't waste words. You don't escalate. You simply speak your truth, and it lands. Listening is the gateway to powerful communication. It's the pause before the precision. And when you master that pause, when you slow down just enough to fully receive, you unlock the ability to communicate with strength, purpose, and real connection. That's how you assert yourself without aggression. That's how you lead with calm, not chaos. Most people hear the word boundaries and instantly think of separation, of saying no, of pushing people away. But let me reframe that for you right now. Boundaries are not about keeping people out. They're about protecting what matters within. They're not walls, they're bridges. They don't isolate. They elevate connection by setting the terms for mutual respect, clarity, and truth. See, when you don't have boundaries, you start living other people's lives. You say yes when you want to say no. You tolerate behavior that violates your values. You bend, shrink, and break trying to please everyone around you. And in the end, you lose yourself. That's not assertiveness. That's self-abandonment. And over time, it breeds resentment, frustration, and burnout. But when you set healthy, calm, and clear boundaries, you're not being aggressive. You're not being selfish. You're being honest. You're saying, this is where I stand, this is what I need, this is what I will or will not allow. That is the ultimate act of self-respect. And when you communicate those boundaries with confidence and compassion, people begin to respect you more, not less. Here's the truth: boundaries are a form of leadership. They teach people how to treat you. They set the standard, and they also create safety for both sides. When others know where the line is, they can stop guessing, stop overstepping, and start relating with more authenticity. That's where deeper connection begins. That's the bridge. Now the key is how you express those boundaries. You don't need to be loud. You don't need to be defensive. You just need to be clear. You can say, I'm not comfortable with that. Or, I'd love to help, but I don't have the capacity right now. That's powerful. That's direct. That's assertive, not aggressive. And remember, every time you set a boundary, you're reinforcing your identity. You're saying, this is who I am. This is what matters to me. And if someone walks away because of that boundary, let them. They're not losing you. You're reclaiming yourself. Boundaries don't break connection. They reveal who's truly aligned with your growth. You want a life of peace, clarity, and real connection? Start building boundaries that don't push people out, but invite the right people in. Let me be straight with you. No one is born a great communicator. You don't wake up one day with the perfect words, the calm tone, the strong yet peaceful presence. It's not a gift, it's a muscle. And like any muscle, it grows with repetition, consistency, and commitment. You've got to train, you've got to practice, because in the heat of life, in the middle of that hard conversation, that triggering moment, that difficult boundary, you don't rise to the level of your intention. You fall to the level of your preparation. You want to be calm under pressure. You want to speak your truth without exploding or shutting down. Then you've got to rehearse those situations before they happen. You've got to visualize. You've got to role play. You've got to become aware of your patterns and upgrade them. Communication is not just about language. It's about identity. It's about becoming the kind of person who shows up powerfully and peacefully no matter what's happening around them. Practice means catching yourself before you react. It means pausing when your old self wants to yell or withdraw. It means choosing clarity over chaos, even when it's hard, even when your ego is screaming. And yes, you will mess up. You will say the wrong thing. You will get triggered. That's not failure. That's feedback. That's fuel. Every tough moment is a chance to get better. Every conversation is a training ground. But only if you stay conscious, only if you commit to learning. You want to be assertive without aggression, then make it a daily discipline. Reflect on your interactions. Ask yourself what worked, what didn't, what you'll improve next time. Speak in front of a mirror. Write your truths down. Practice saying no with kindness. Practice expressing your needs without apology. The more you do it, the more natural it becomes. The more consistent you are, the more powerful your presence becomes. Mastery doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen. And when you reach that level, when your default becomes clarity, your tone becomes calm, and your truth becomes non-negotiable, everything changes. Your relationships improve, your stress drops, your influence expands. Why? Because you've trained for it, you earned it, and remember this, the way you communicate is the way you lead your life. So if you want a life of power, peace, and purpose, practice like it matters. Because it absolutely does.